Welcome to the Living Superhuman Fitness Podcast, where we take you inside our gym, CrossFit Palm Beach, each week. It's here that we are creating new superhumans every day, transforming people's lives, helping them reach a level of health they never knew possible. We strive to answer your most burning questions on fitness, health, nutrition, training, motivation, mindset, lifestyle, and more. If you have a question, please email us at info@crossfitpalmbeach.com. You can also learn more on our blog, livingsuperhuman.com. And if you have a moment, we'd love a review from you on iTunes. All right, it's time. Let's stop being average and start living superhuman. All right, guys, welcome to the Living Superhuman Fitness Podcast. My name's Andrew Frezza. I'm here with a couple of our coaches.
Zach.
Whitney Stevenson.
And we are going to be talking about the difference between scaling, cheating, and sandbagging. All right, so one of the reasons this has come up is we started recently doing a thing called the New You Challenge. It's a 6-week challenge where we're working with a lot of athletes that most of them haven't been working out before they came to us. And one of the things that's come up a lot is people have injuries. They have previous injuries that they're working around, and when we give them modifications or scales, a lot of people are kind of pushing back and saying, well, they don't want to feel like they're cheating themselves, or they don't want to feel like they're not pushing themselves in the gym. And a lot of times there's some confusion about what scaling is and what cheating is. So that's really what we want to break down today and talk about the purpose of scaling, how it can help, and really change the mindset around scaling altogether, because a lot of people hear the word scaling and they think of it as a negative thing, but for us, it can be used as a positive thing in a lot of ways. So, first question I want to ask is, why is scaling something not cheating? Like when we scale, how is that different from cheating in a workout or not giving it our best?
I'll go first.
You got it.
It's not cheating because everyone has a different ability level. Everyone is at a different level when they come in. So we're trying to maintain the stimulus of the workout and try to make that a common thread throughout all of our athletes. So we may adjust reps and load, or even sometimes how long the workout is, depending on where that athlete's at, but it's just something that we can use to make the workout the same for all of our athletes, so we're keeping them working towards the same goals. So we'll have to adjust things in order to get that to happen.
And I kind of think it feels like cheating because you have the whiteboard, you have what's prescribed, what we're asking you to do as an athlete, and then everyone needs a modification at some point. So it feels like, well, I'm not doing what you're asking me to do, but it's not cheating, and that might not be the case. You might not be able to do what we're asking you to do, but there's a way we can make it so you're getting the same stimulus, even though it's not the same exact movement. You might not be jumping on the 30-inch box, you might be jumping on the red plate, but you're still doing a box jump, you're still getting the stimulus that we want out of it. So I feel like it's, just because it's not on the board doesn't mean that you're cheating or you're not doing what we're asking you to do.
Yeah, I think one of the things that people should realize is yes, we put a lot of thought and time and energy into the whiteboard and what the workout of the day is, but in a lot of ways that's still a very arbitrary thing. It's something that is made up in a lot of ways. It's done with a lot of thought and purpose behind it, but it's still arbitrary, meaning, if everyone's scaling to some degree. So if we're talking about one day we might have chest to bar pull-ups is the RX standard. Well, other days that might be pull-ups, regular chin over the bar. The other day it might be ring rows, and those are scales for chest to bar. Or you can scale up to muscle ups or weighted muscle ups or strict muscle ups. So even our best athletes are technically scaling that workout in some degree. And just because what you see on the board is on the board for that day, it is kind of arbitrary in a way to provide that stimulus for that day. And that's why we keep going back to that word is we're giving you the best movement or the best weight or whatever it is to provide that stimulus, but that's not going to be true for 100% of the people. So think of it more as adjusting rather than scaling, because everyone's probably going to be adjusting in some way or another besides those few people that it really lines up with for that day.
Yeah, and every athlete's different, so depending on where you're at, you might be an athlete that comes in and you scale everything we do, or most of the things we do when it comes to maybe the gymnastic stuff. A lot of the weightlifting is scaled, or pretty much all of it you'll scale, but you might be a really good endurance athlete. So if you were here for, I think the workout we did yesterday, biking and running, you weren't scaling that one. That was definitely an RX or even our RTG scale. So some athletes who scale all the time might move up or might move into a totally different amount of work just because they're really good at a certain thing. So sometimes, even our athletes that are just starting out, we know are very good aerobically. They're going to get something that's going to challenge them that way. Yeah,
I think the scale is always looked at, we're scaling down, and we don't ever talk about that it is like that full spectrum, and you can scale up. And it's the cool thing I think about CrossFit is that it is like that expression of like your wellness or your fitness or your health. And so we're never going to be at that same place for a long period of time. We're always kind of sliding up and down, and hopefully, sliding towards wellness throughout the way, but we always kind of have to honor that journey. And like that kind of looks like maybe taking a step back sometimes, or this is where I'm starting, so this is, I'm not going to start with the heaviest weight because this is my third day at the gym. Like my wellness journey is just beginning. So it's kind of interesting to see people and how they honor that throughout their journey.
And there's other things that go on too. You might have someone who's really strong and all their lifts are the number, that absolute number is big or heavy, but mechanically they're not moving very well. So now we're scaling them down in order to achieve range of motion or other things or other tasks that we're trying to accomplish other than just getting them really strong. So what might seem like something that's a strength for them, we're scaling them back in that area because they have other things associated with that movement that they need to work on, not just strength or not just, one thing, but there's always multiple parts to every movement that we're working on.
Yeah. I think one of the key sort of like things I want people to distinguish between is scaling does not prevent you from pushing yourself. So you can scale a workout, and so you choose less weight. Like the situation you're talking about, Zach, is you have that person choose less weight, but that doesn't prevent them from going as hard as they can possibly go in that workout and moving as well as you want them to move. And a lot of people will use that scale either as an excuse to not push as hard, or just as a mental barrier to say I didn't give it my full effort today. Whereas nothing about that scale, the scale was a decision about what type of workout you were going to do, but once that decision's made, it's all on you to give it everything you have. And a lot of times scaling something, as people traditionally see it, doesn't make it easier. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of times this is true with weights. So if I add weight to what you're doing, if you wanted to use 155 pounds, that's a heavier weight than, let's say, 100 pounds. 155 pounds doesn't necessarily make that a harder workout. Mm-hmm. If 100 pounds allows you to go unbroken and get to the next movement faster and spend less time resting, then you actually made this a harder workout by using less weight. And I think that's something that people usually confuse, is they think that increasing weight always means it's a harder workout. When we use the word scaling, sometimes we're actually making it a harder workout by doing that.
I think that's where the sandbagging kind of comes in, right? Because we can we see athletes do this all the time. We're like, well, I'm going to stick with the RX weight because I like to lift, and I really want to lift that heavy deadlift today. But if the workout calls for you to be done in 3 to 5 minutes, and it takes you 3 minutes to finish your first round of deadlifts, we have to scale you back. And the reason being is there's a stimulus that we're trying to achieve, and you're far below that stimulus because you've chosen a weight that's too heavy. So even though everyone might be impressed by how that is, and everyone might think that it's harder, we know as coaches that it's not, and that you're actually hiding behind that weight a little bit.
Yeah, I think like I always give people high fives after class, and I hear a lot like oh, great job, so-and-so, and they're like, yeah, but I scaled, and like, doesn't always negate your effort.
It just crushes my soul to hear that. Not even theirs.
It doesn't negate the effort that was put into the actual workout, or the mental shift that took place. They may have scaled the weight on their wall balls, but they went full depth to the squat and hit the target. That's awesome. They did that for the whole workout versus grabbing the 14-pound ball and just playing granny shot with it. Like I don't know. So for me, I really appreciate that like mental shift when somebody can step back and scale and put a different effort towards it, not just kind of like floor it and die, but like really kind of make it like their little masterpiece, their workout of the day. So
you stole the word out of my mouth. I was going to say it's more of like a path to mastering something rather than just like getting by and being okay with it being okay. Mm-hmm. You going to say something?
I was, but then I lost it. It'll come back.
It'll come back.
It'll float itself back.
So the new U group that we've been working with, a lot of it has been related to injuries. People have had knee pain, they've had back pain. This is stuff that they've had for years and years, and then they're trying to squat through it or deadlift through it, and just saying, I think they have that mentality like no pain, no gain, when that really isn't the case. Like you should be able to distinguish between pain of a workout and injury pain, and a lot of times they're complaining of an injury type pain, but they're still pushing through. And in CrossFit, that's really one of our main jobs as coaches, is to modify. That's what we've all been really good at. You've been in the gym long enough where you learn how to switch movements out, and you can be doing a completely different movement and still get a great workout. So, I just hate to see people push through injuries when it's just not necessary.
Yeah, I mean, injury or lifestyle before the gym is like a big limiting factor for a lot of people, and they have this idea that pushing themselves is just physical. It's completely physical. Well, I didn't push myself because I didn't do RTG, or I didn't push myself because I didn't, land on the floor when I was done with the workout. I was able to walk away from it. And they don't see that the scale or like maybe pushing themselves mentally a little bit, dialing in their focus, or, breathing right, or actually doing the movements correctly, maybe not with like a smiley face on and everything's perfect, but just actually getting through the movement correctly is a mental push, and that could be pushing themselves versus, just kind of like relying on like adrenaline and stress to get you through something and not even focusing on or being present to what you're doing.
Like a wall ball, you can drop in and out of a wall ball with your eyes shut and get through it, or you can keep yourself braced, in control out of the bottom, drive out, stay through your heels, make a really good looking squat, and that is hard to do when your heart rate's up. And so that takes an incredible amount of discipline mentally, and a lot of times is a lot of progress for athletes that doesn't show up on the whiteboard.
Yeah, that they're not even going to talk about.
Yeah, and they don't realize how they're winning by doing that.
Yeah, another big component around scaling is really just the honesty component. Is if you're being honest with yourself and your coaches about what you did, whether you did less reps, you did less weight, whatever you did, to me that's never cheating. You're never cheating yourself or doing anything like that. It's always some form of scaling, which I would say is a positive thing. And when you add that component of dishonesty, whether it's doing less reps than you're supposed to do, and not only that, but representing like you did the actual reps, that's where it becomes a problem. CrossFit has a component of being measurable. We have a lot of benchmark workouts that we retest, and you're really just doing yourself a disservice if you're not having that honesty piece of committing to what you set out to do when you started that workout, or if you need to make adjustments during that workout, fine, but don't represent like you did something else. Don't start with an RX, adjust, and then still make it seem like you did the RX, and not be honest with yourself.
Well, I think you're hurting yourself. You're hurting all of the people in your gym, because we were talking about this earlier. If you put up a score at 8 a.m. at the 8 a.m. class, and that is not really what you got. Let's say it's 10 to 15 reps more than what you actually got. Now you have all of the classes from there on out. Everyone that normally compares to your score is looking at your score and going, man, they beat me by this many reps. Man, I wasn't there today. I guess I don't have it. When they did fine. They're comparing to a number that isn't real. It makes it very difficult for somebody. You'd hate for someone to go home discouraged when they really beat you in the workout, but they think that they didn't. It's just tough for athletes to go home every single day and not, they're always looking to compare themselves to other athletes and see where they stack up. And if those numbers aren't real, they're not getting a good representation of where they're at, and that doesn't help your teammates in any way.
Yeah, I think people really underestimate how much, when they do it, it affects those around them, whether it be those in their class or those in other classes. And it is way more prevalent than we would like to say it is. I mean, we've we've seen plenty of people short reps and say they do an RX. We've gone back to the video sometimes just to watch a funny video of someone rolling off a rower or something like that, and then coming to find out that someone didn't do the actual reps. And as a coach, when you see 3 or 4 classes go through a workout, you just have a feel for who's doing the full reps and who's not. It actually is much more obvious than most people would think, but it really does tear apart the community, and that's what we're all about is that community aspect. So we try to address it individually with people. We don't get around to doing it with everybody, but it's something that we hold to a high standard, and we hope that everyone else does as well.
That's a very big part of CrossFit is creating a healthy competitive atmosphere, and there's nothing healthy about that atmosphere when the scores aren't real, and so I think everybody owes it to each other to be accountable for your own scores and to be honest about them.
Yeah, I think having the personal integrity enough to write down, what you actually got versus kind of lie or compare yourself to what somebody else is doing and be like, all right, I'm going to minus 3 reps and then, so-and-so, and that's what I'm going to put on the board. Like, just being able to have ownership of what you're doing. Not only is that going to, obviously give you better results because you're going to have, measurable outcomes that you can compare throughout your journey, but it's also going to help you outside of the gym. Keep your integrity, put the shopping cart away, do those small little things in life that you kind of probably would ignore. You kind of hold yourself to a higher standard, and that just trickles down.
It's a mindset that you want to have in everything that you're doing.
Yeah, I think if someone's listening to this and they have trouble with it, they've cut reps before, they thought about doing it, I would listen to the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset, because I very much think that aligns with that fixed mindset of wanting to appear good rather than having more of a learning intention and wanting to grow and saying, okay, I want to establish a real viewpoint of where I am today because I know I'm going to grow from that, rather than having a false viewpoint of where you are today by fudging scores on a benchmark workout. And now anytime you retest that or redo that benchmark workout, it's really it's wasted. That 6 months of training is wasted because you didn't have a real sense of where you were when you started. Yeah,
I truly believe anybody who walks through these doors wants to be better, either healthier or a better person or more fit, and I just feel that's just a little bit of the ego that's kind of just remaining there, and we've all done it. I'm sure I've cut reps. I know I've cut reps, actually. We had a conversation about it.
That was a counting issue, though.
But still,
it's hard to count when you can't.
There's always a thought about that. I just wish I could be done. I'm at 17. I'm really close to 21. Let me just do one more, whatever. And I just think, being able to kind of recognize those thoughts and move beyond it, because it's going to make you a better human, a better human being.
And I think something you said earlier before we got on was it makes it more enjoyable to celebrate your victories.
Yeah.
Right? When
absolutely.
You want to touch in on that, I kind of stole your thing, but
it's okay.
Stole your thunder.
Well, what we were talking about, say your Fran times say your Fran times 158, and you actually are more like a 228. I don't know.
Really good athlete.
Numbers, you guys. Don't hold me accountable for this. But your time is really 30 seconds slower in reality, but you say it's 30 seconds faster. Then we actually do it. We test it in a workout. You have somebody judging you. You have a crowd around you cheering you on, and you go 159. But you've been telling all these people already that your time was 158. But it really wasn't. It was more 228. So you really did get better. You did improve. You do have this victory. We all want to celebrate with you, but we can't because it's a lie. Your time that you're kind of holding on to, saying that maybe it's the potential you think you're at, isn't really where you're at. And so you kind of take that away, not only from yourself, but from the entire gym. The person judging you, the class, the group, the entire environment is kind of shut down.
That's the number one thing. Not number one thing, but it's just something that I see a lot, especially with our community, is we all want to celebrate with everyone. We want everyone to do really well, and I think that goes for all of our coaches, all of our members, everybody that walks in. My mom doesn't go to this gym, but when she comes in here to watch the tournaments, she wants to see everybody do well, and that's, it's hard when you're not being honest every once in a while. Somebody can maybe not discredit you, but it puts doubt in there, and you don't want to have that surrounding you within your community of athletes.
Definitely not. I think another part of the honesty component is range of motion as well. This is something that it seems maybe less important than like just blatantly not counting your reps, right? But in a lot of ways, you might actually be doing more harm to yourself. If you're not squatting to full depth, just from a physiological standpoint, you're not developing your muscles. Like, you're going to be using more of your quads than your glutes and your hamstrings. You're going to hinder yourself in a big way. So if you're not squatting to full depth, you're not standing all the way up, you're not opening up on a burpee, all these little things are hurting your performance both in the short run and the long run, even though it may be helping you put a little bit better score on the board today.
Yeah, I mean, technique is a really tricky thing to deal with. I had to deal with it a lot when I swam because it's me and water. Like, I had to change my stroke a lot, and I had to kind of go backwards a little bit. And we feel a little bit of resistance now changing a lot of people's rowing technique, and kind of maybe they're not getting as many calories per hour, and they might have to slow down what they're doing to dial in the technique. But overall, we're allowing them a greater capacity for power and strength, maybe 3 months down the road when the technique is sound. So I think that's the same thing. Like, they just don't want to change because I can't get as many as I could yesterday if I try this new style or try this new technique. But really, you could probably get 20 more than you got yesterday in 3 months if you keep practicing this new technique. It's sort of being patient, and again, that growth mindset. All right, not yet, not today. I didn't beat my score yesterday, but in time it will come, and I'll be way more sound. I'll be moving better, and I'll feel better in the gym.
Yeah, a lot of times scaling is taking one step back to take 3 or 4 steps forward. It's slowing down the process. I think, like, when you look at like the Olympic lifts, you don't get better doing your 1 rep max. You get better usually in that like 70 to 85% range, where your form is just like on point over and over and over again. And eventually, when you do go test a 1 rep max, hopefully that work is going to hold, and that's going to result in a new PR. But it doesn't happen by doing the 1 rep max. It happens by doing the 70% work over and over and over again, which, 70%, it's scaling in some way, but it's really making you better in the long run.
Perfect practice.
Perfect practice makes perfect. All right, guys, I think that's it. Was there anything else you wanted to add? All right.
No, I think that was good.
I feel good.
I feel good about it.
That was an RX podcast, by the way. Not scaled at all.
Not scaled. Bye.